This is Charlie Kao with Travel Mall, welcoming Markland Blaiklock, who's the Deputy CEO of Centara Hotels and Resorts. He's coming to us from Bangkok. Great to see you, Markland. It's been a long time.
It has indeed, Charlie, and I look forward to the day where we'll be meeting face to face at an event somewhere around the world, or indeed even here in Bangkok. But thank you for organizing this call. It's always a pleasure.
Well, I appreciate your sharing with me some of your travel stories, the cabin fever situation, and since things opened up, you've been hitting the road with family travel, business travel. What are the entry requirements right now? I know Thailand has opened up. How are the numbers for returning Europeans, North Americans, and regional Asians?
Well, I mean, first of all, Thailand was one of the first countries to open up in the region with sort of a pilot situation in Phuket, which they call the sort of Phuket sandbox, and that was a success because it happened as planned. It was not delayed in spite of whatever was happening at the time. And it's been great welcoming people from all around the world. Where it was less successful is actually in attracting significant numbers, and the reason for that being that from the outset, and I believe it started in July of last year. From the outset, there was still a lot of hoops you had to go through to make the trip, and obviously for people, especially traveling with family, if you have to actually complete 4 Thailand passes and attach a whole bunch of documents and pay for insurance and pay for your first few nights in the hotel and pay for PCR tests back home and on arrival here. There were a lot of a lot of requirements. So I'm happy to say that over time, and as the global situation and the situation in Thailand has normalized, those restrictions have been progressively reduced. And right now, there is no quarantine requirement anywhere in Thailand. In fact, you still need to complete a Thailand pass. You need to attach your vaccinations to the application, and you need to buy insurance, which has been reduced progressively from originally at $100,000 down to just $10,000. And that can be procured as you're completing your application for about 600 baht, which is less than $20. So really made vastly more simple. And the process of getting the approval of the Thailand Pass is something that now happens, almost as soon as you've hit your send button. Certainly within 30 minutes, you'll get the approval back. So with that, with making it easier and with reducing the costs, we're anticipating the numbers will certainly increase. Just to give you an idea, for Q1, the first 3 months, we had about 500,000 travelers coming into Thailand. For the Maldives, we had about the same number, and for Dubai, we had over 2 million. So, and typically Thailand, pre-COVID, would get 3 million a month. So over a 3-month period, especially those 3 months were the peak period, it would have been around 9-10 million. Of which about 1/3 would have been from China, which, as we all know, is still closed. So the numbers are nowhere near what they used to be. but they are a vast improvement over what they have been since the start of COVID in 2020 and 2021. So we're really excited about that. We're getting good growth numbers over, albeit a very low base, but at least it's an upward trend, and upward trends, motivate people and get you excited about the future. So that's essentially the situation now. There's also, for travelers who are not vaccinated, the easiest method for them to come into the country and still avoid any quarantine is to have a PCR within 72 hours of arrival.
Oh.
That's all they require. They still need to do the Thailand pass. And I think in both cases, vaccinated or not, you're required to do an ATK, which can be procured for less than 100 baht. You need to do an ATK on day 5 after arrival. So very, very easily arranged, and you send that through based on the app you receive as you arrive in the country. So it's really very simple, both for vaccinated and unvaccinated, and hopefully we'll see the numbers of international arrivals grow.
The regional Asian markets, they've not surged back.
That's true, and in light of two phenomena. One, we're now no longer in our peak period. The peak period that ends kind of in April is the period when most of the international travel is long haul, so to speak. So mostly from Europe, people escaping the harsh winter there. In the second quarter, starting say in May, it is typically more from within the region, and we're starting to see that pick up, not only on the leisure side but also on the business side. We're seeing more business people. We're seeing more smaller events. The hotel where I'm calling you from is our flagship Centara Grand Central World, and the Bangkok Convention Center, which is housed here. They're currently running in the month of May around 70-80% occupied. So and that's more on the corporate meeting side than purely leisure, although it does include a good component of leisure. And the other factor that is making us more positive is that the level of domestic demand is more than it has been historically, and it's been a great support. And the government just reduced the COVID rating from level 4 to level 3, and essentially level 3 invites everyone to travel freely around the country. Only high-risk individuals are discouraged from travel, but everyone else, no longer any restriction on travel. They can travel freely within the country. So that too will be a positive element.
For those who are not familiar with the Centara Hotels and Resorts group, they are the largest hospitality company for Thailand, and very much involved also in Southeast Asia in general, in the Indian Ocean, in Middle East, and in now in Japan. Instead of talking first about Thailand, I'm going to do it slightly backwards, because it's very interesting what you were describing to me, your personal / business visits to your Maldives property, to Dubai. Share with our audience what's been happening there, please.
Well, what I didn't share with you previously was that actually the Maldives trip was combined with a honeymoon. So obviously it was particularly
Congratulations.
special. It was a long delay, but something we could look forward to, and it was great to do it. I say that, of course, at the same time, when you visit your properties for whatever purpose, you're also going to spend some time with the team there. And that's a team that went through a particularly difficult time because, of course, during the lockdown in the Maldives, the staff couldn't go anywhere. They had to stay on the island. They used the time very productively. They worked on different projects to ensure that the property was maintained at the highest level, and they kept themselves busy. But it was very difficult, and none of us at the corporate level were able to visit them. So it was great to get there for a honeymoon, and it was great to get to the team. And are you still there, Charlie? I've lost your
Yeah,
picture.
I'm here.
Oh, okay, very good. So it was great to get there for both those reasons, and the other, I was able to convince my wife that we should also take a side trip to our lagoon. So we purchased this lagoon several years ago, and we finished the reclamation of 3 of 5 islands. So ultimately, we hope to have 5 resorts in this lagoon. We have, as I say, reclaimed 3, and that's been the culmination of a very long process, working with consultants, oceanographers, to make sure that the islands were positioned in the optimal way to ensure that the beaches were retained, they didn't get the typical wash off that happens in the Maldives, and also to ensure that the sea life came to the area as quickly as possible. And I have to say, I went prepared with a pair of goggles and a snorkel, and already did a little bit of swimming activity, and there was already sea life to see there, which of course is already very much in place at our Centara Grand and at our Centara Rasfushi in the Maldives, but typically can be a long time coming to a new development, but in our case already there. And the 3 islands were looking great. We're planning on developing 2 of them on the short term. So the first one will be ready by the peak season at the end of 2024, followed by the second one, and then the third one maybe a year or 2 later. And we were originally going to, for the first and the second, develop them as themed Centara hotels, feeding a little bit from the success of the Centara Mirage in Dubai. The flagship Mirage we have is actually a Centara Grand in Pattaya, which has been open for some 12 years and been a phenomenal success, often rated as the best family resort in Thailand. So we're still considering for the Maldives. We had a themed approach in mind when we sort of done the design for the first 2 islands, but maybe we may change the branding and integrate a Mirage element, or maybe have one at a higher level than the other, maybe a Centara Grand and a Centara, and the third one going from the success of our first Centara Reserve. We're thinking of making that one a reserve, but that one will be delivered a little bit later. But we took advantage of getting over and seeing that development, and it is like the Centara Rasfushi, within a 15-minute boat ride from Male. So very accessible, but at the same time, very exotic.
For those who are not familiar, it's very typical with all the lagoon islands spread out that you have to take a seaplane. Interesting if you never experienced one, but it takes time and costs money. So your location from the main Male airport is very convenient.
Indeed, it is, and yet, as I mentioned, even for being that close, it's still a very idyllic setting. You see some islands sort of on the horizon, but you can't really see any kind of industrial activity or really Mali to speak of, even for that short boat ride. But speaking to your original question, so we were there, and then we went from there back to Dubai, because at that time from Bangkok you had to fly via Dubai. Now I'm happy to say you can fly direct. There are several carriers that fly direct to the Maldives. But on our return trip, we stopped off in Dubai for the opening of our 607-room Centara Mirage Dubai, which is located on Dira Island. Has a beautiful beachfront, a very extensive beach. In fact, the property has been so successful, we're now planning on putting adding another pool on the beach, because the beach is so long. It's quite a distance to get back into the resort. And we felt we could benefit from adding some additional pool capacity to the resort. So we had that opening on the 14th of October, just 14 days after the start of the World Expo. And the property's been doing phenomenally well, way over our projections. And even since the end of the World Expo, it's continued to be very successful. April, May, obviously in the coming months with the summer season, it drops off a little bit, but the expectations for the property are in fact so good that we may even add an extension. So it was great to get there also and see the team.
Let's talk about Thailand, please.
Yes.
And what would be helpful is if you can recap the various brands you have and the kind of clientele they cater to for our audience.
Yes, I'm very happy to do that, Charlie. I've just mentioned, or I mentioned earlier, that we launched a luxury brand. It's called Centara Reserve, and the first property under that brand was opened on the 1st of December last year. It is the Centara Reserve Samui, on the location of the former Centara Grand in Samui, which was totally gutted. Anyone who stayed at the previous property wouldn't recognize it staying at the Centara Reserve. It's a beautiful property, and in keeping with a luxury positioning, we've added several restaurants. We have a seafood beach restaurant called Salt Society, with lots of salt creations or salt enhancements to flavored salts that you can use to enhance the flavors of the seafood you're consuming there. We have our specialty restaurant, which we call Act 5. And there is a sort of a theatrical service delivery in every course you receive, and maybe more of a meat focus in the food, but very theatrically delivered by the very capable staff and culinary team that we have there. Then we have a restaurant called Sanya, which is Thai tapas, and that too has been very well received. It's quite small. It has a capacity of around 30 seats, generally packed with Thai people who are really enjoying the innovative combinations that are served there. There's one particular dish that arrives with what looks like a paper covering on it, which is flambéed in front of you and disappears and exposes below it the very tasty dish. So that's also been well received. And then we have the restaurant we refer to as the terrace that is open throughout the day and serving an international fare. And then we also have a new facility called the Gin Run, over 50 variations of gin combinations, and anything else you care to drink. And then some light bites also, which sits in a hexagonal structure with views out of any of those angles, most prominently over the pool area and looking out to the ocean. So really a spectacular setup there. So that caters to a luxury market, given its luxury positioning. Maybe a little bit different to the other luxury properties on the island that are maybe more remote, because we're located right in Chaweng. So they're travelers that are looking for a beach experience, which can be experienced at one end of the beach, where our main pools are, which is very active and lots of children playing. We have a very large children area with sort of water activities and an indoor area. Or we have a new infinity pool at the other end of the garden, and it's a very extensive garden, which is sort of a quiet area for adults. And there you can enjoy the peace and tranquility. So it's a little bit for everyone, but maybe the more discerning travel. Then we have our the brand that we are best known for. It's Centara Grand. We have a flagship properties in two Centara Grands in Bangkok that have convention facilities. So we've historically done great convention business, but they're both over 500 rooms. So they've also accommodated leisure travelers who just want to visit Bangkok. And in both cases, they have very elaborate rooftops. And in the case of the Centara Grand at Central World, we completed a full renovation of all 525 rooms, completely renovated, completely gutted, new bathrooms, new designs, and actually upgraded the suite product there to a very, very high level. And we completely renovated the main restaurant, converted it into two restaurants, one sort of a Thai with a difference, and the other part of it is Italian. And most recently, we just launched a new rooftop venue. We already have what's called Red Sky, which is al fresco dining, and a bar area that goes around the circumference of the building, so you get 360-degree views. And on the very top, we have a champagne bar called Crew, where you have 360-degree views from wherever you're sitting. But we added a new venue called Coco XO. And it is, as the name suggests, a combination of chocolate and all manner of delicacies that you could imagine doing with chocolate, that is contained within a chocolate cocoon on about the 56th floor. And of course, we have a partnership with Martell, and we have some of the finest selection of Martell cognacs that are also available in addition to anything else anyone would care to drink. So we haven't been idle over COVID. We've used the time to reinvest and create some new innovations. Where Centara Grand is probably best known is for our beach resorts, our family beach resorts. And that we have a brand extension, which is Centara Grand Mirage, or we also combine the Mirage at a Centara positioning, which is upscale. Centara Grand is upper upscale, but predominantly it's really appealing to a family audience. For Centara Grand, we describe it as a distinguished upper upscale hotels and resorts, locally relevant hotels at the heart of their destination. So typically, if they're in a resort environment, they're on the beach. If they're in the city, they're in the center of the city in a focal point. The third brand is Centara, which is our upscale brand. So we describe it as well-appointed upscale hotels and resorts, essential comfort, everyday pleasures and delightful surprises. And they're in city locations, but also in resort locations, sometimes right on the beach, or if not right on the beach, then very close to the beach, easy beach access. Then we have a brand, our fourth brand is called Centara Boutique Collection. They sit either in the upper upscale, they even verge on luxury. We have a beautiful Centara Boutique Collection on Mai Khao Beach in Phuket, which is 22 villas, either 1, 2, or 3 bedroom villas. The 3 bedroom villas have a pool at the ground level and another pool at the upper level. So quite even a position beyond upper upscale in more the luxury area. But typically we describe these as uniquely intimate boutique hotels, curated and stylish leisure brand. The one on Mai Khao Beach has many interesting Thai artistic elements, as does the one that we have in Chiang Mai. Then we have our mid-scale brand, which we describe as a quality value hotels, and that's called Centra by Centara. And these are also located in city and resort locations. And finally, we have our Cozy brand, which is at the position at the economy level, but we refer to it as affordable lifestyle hotels. We have 3 of those, one in Pattaya, one in Samui, and one in Krabi. The most recent opening being the one in Krabi, which has been a real hit. We even had the city paint the street between the 2 sides of the property in the same colors as the vivid colors as the resort. So these are modern lifestyle hangout hotels, all about freedom, 24-hour freedom. You want breakfast in the morning, you can have it then. You want it at night or anytime, you can have it whenever you want it.
Obviously,
so
catering
those are our 6 brands.
The Cozy, obviously catering to young guests, or again on the economy level, if it's budget.
That's correct, yeah. But you're right. The demographic tends to be on the younger side, although we've even had some families stay in them. Yeah, obviously the price point is an important element, but they're located in central locations wherever they are. They have a kind of a grab and go concept, which lends itself well to being located in a central location where our guests can go out and find other restaurants and bars in the neighborhood and experience more of the neighborhood. But they've been very successful.
In total, how many properties in Thailand?
Well, in total, we have between operating and under development, we have 90 properties. And we're hoping to get that number up around 108 by the end of this year. We have a target of reaching close to 200 hotels in the next 5 years. And that would position us in the top 100 hotels worldwide, or hotel groups worldwide, in terms of number of rooms. So we're we're very focused on that. We're on an expansion drive and very committed to it.
Going back to luring back international visitors, any plans for special programs, whether on the pricing point or on product offerings?
Definitely. We have, I mean, the slogan of the brand is the place to be. So we have a promotion that carries that name. It's our core campaign that we've been marketing both domestically and overseas. And it offers up to a 20% discount. There's an additional 15% discount on top of that for members of our Centara The One loyalty program. And that's available at Centara Hotels and Resorts across Thailand, Vietnam, and the Middle East, so essentially everywhere. And then we have another package which is more focused on the markets that you just mentioned. It's called Thailand Rediscovered, and that's a 7-night experiential stay package in Thailand's most popular resort destinations, Phuket, Krabi, Bangkok, Pattaya, and Hua Hin, where we have a presence in all those locations. And that package includes obviously the room, but also the choice of complementary activities, half board, full board, different meal plans, round trip airport transfers. So there are many. There's a sort of a menu of selections that the guests can choose from in terms of what works best for them for that 7-day package, and that's been well received.
7 days in one property, or you can mix and match?
You could mix and match, but typically it's more often 7 days in one and then another 7 days in another. You know, the average visit of a long haul visitor tends to be longer. So 14 days is probably pretty close to the average, and so they could do 7 in one and 7 in another. They can even do 7 in Maldives, and then the short 4-hour flight, and do another 7 in Phuket. That's another package we offered some time ago when those 2 locations were 2 of the first ones to open up, and it's still available.
Well, Markland, that's a great update. Good to hear things are coming back. Next time we speak, I don't know, about 3 million arrivals to Thailand a month, but it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Well, we're certainly confident that there's a lot of pent-up demand. You know, even if you look at you consider China, the visitor arrivals used to be very high because the Chinese love to travel, and one of their favorite places in the world is Thailand. So it used to be maybe a million a month, even if it's only 500,000. That's still a big number, and I think what we'll see when China first opens up is that the first travelers will likely be the ones from the tier 1 cities, the travelers with more means who will travel individually and enjoy their time and do more when they're overseas in places where we have hotels and where hotels exist. So we're certainly looking forward to that. We're not counting on China in the immediate, but hopefully it will ultimately return. It's just a question of when. And for the others, I mean, it's been a tough time, as you know. I mean, you're a world traveler, and you've been somewhat confined, so it's been tough to be in confined that way. And we're looking forward to welcoming all those travelers back to our hotels.
Markland Blaiklock, Deputy CEO, really the guy who runs the Centara Hotels and Resorts. Thank you so much. Great to see you.
Thank you, Charlie. Always a pleasure. You take
Cheers.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.